Today's episode is a powerful one. In fact, I think it might be one of my most powerful episodes in the way that it will inspire the listener, and also in the way it will show you the power of the mind. So today, my guest, Nancy Dubé, she's from Quebec, so she has a beautiful name that she can pronounce much better than I can. But Nancy is one of my recent graduating students from the Second Half S.P.A.R.K school, and she has transformed into a new human in the last 90 days. I'm so excited for her because the light that shines from her being is truly visible. And she was so lost and unhappy and physically sick when she came to me, and I met her in a workshop. Actually, I'm doing a workshop right now, similar to the one in which I met her. So if you're not there, you should get in there now, notyouraverage.com/ignite. But she is an incredible human being that loves people. She's a psych nurse, and she was lost and incredibly unhappy in her job, and it was causing her to be physically ill. And I won't go into the details here. You'll hear them in an episode. But what we did through the course of the last 90 days changed her physical self. And that's the power of the mind. That's what you can do when you change your thoughts and you understand who you really are at your core. Because Nancy is a great example of what many of us do to please others, and she wasn't showing up authentically in her life. And I will let you meet her now, and her story is incredible, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. You should be listening to her, not me. So let's get on with the episode now. Hi, I'm Laurie Wright, also known as Not Your Average Grandma. I created this podcast as a place to go for midlife inspiration. If you are in a stage where you believe the best is behind you, it is my hope that one of these episodes will ignite a long suppressed or unrealized desire, and you will see the potential within yourself just waiting to be tapped, so you can do amazing things with the time you have left. I want you to stop seeing your age as a limitation and start seeing it as your superpower. You have years of experience and value that the younger you never had, so it's time to lean into that and use it to fuel your future. No more letting age hold you back from the pursuit of a more passion-filled life. The more passionate we are, the better the world will be. So stop settling for average, put your AirPods in, and let this episode inspire you to take the first step in transforming your mind, body, and soul. Welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Lives, and I have with me today a very special guest, another one of my students, Nancy Dubé. I probably am mispronouncing it because she's French, and she speaks very good English. She thinks she doesn't, but she does. And I only wish I could speak two languages like her. But she's from Quebec, Canada. And I met her in October. And we were just looking at the first email she ever sent me when she was taking one of my workshops. And it was a little walk down memory lane, which was rather fun. So we're going to get into a little bit of her backstory. But I wanted to welcome you, Nancy. Let people hear you.
Oh, yeah. Well, hello. Pleased to be here with you.
Yes. And I've gotten to know Nancy really well. And she was in my Second Half S.P.A.R.K school and she just, I would say, graduated. It's a 90-day program, and she finished, and she is flying high. And I love her story. And it was one of the most powerful transformations that I've yet to work with. And so I really wanted to have her on. So thank you for being here and sharing and being vulnerable. But I really wanted to have her story be told because it's super inspiring. And, it's just one of those stories where Nancy is a high achiever, and Nancy works hard, achieves a lot, similar to me, workaholic kind of person, works in a hospital environment, right? As a psych nurse.
Yeah.
So she has the credentials, but she was struggling a lot. What I do is I help people find more purpose. And somewhere along the line, Nancy realized that she was working every day, making money, but not really living from purpose. And the funny thing is, and Nancy can describe this, I'll let her do a little describing, but what I found is somebody who loved what she did, what she does is helping patients and working with patients, but yet the environment she was in was stifling her, was forcing her into, we'll get into what this means, but living inauthentically. And a lot of us don't even realize when this is happening. And so Nancy came into the program. It was fun because she exchanged a couple of emails. We were just reading one that this was the beginning of October, and she had a dream on day 2, because I take my my workshop people through, in the workshop she did, through a visualization. And some people see something and some people don't. And if you don't see something, I say, keep doing it. Something will come up eventually. But the people who don't see things are more closed, and there's reasons for that. But Nancy saw something, and she messaged me about the dream that she had, and it was really a cool dream. And it was like I was her guide. There was a blonde woman, she said, and I was her guide, and I was opening up possibilities to her. But she continued to email me, which I do love when people reach out to me. And one of the things she spoke to me, and I'm curious now that I know how far she's come and what she's been through, is one of the things she said is, I feel like you're really authentic. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
You said, I can read people and I can tell when they're fake and I can tell when they're not who they say they are. And you just really, it was really sweet to me, because I felt like, oh, I'm so glad that I'm coming across that way. And then what we discovered through the process of her coming into the school was, I take my students through this personality typing session. And she discovered that she was living inauthentically, and she didn't even realize it. And I thought that's so funny, that what resonated with me was the authenticity, and it was something that deep down you were probably yearning for. So I want to walk through. Nancy found herself in the last 90 days. Nancy has discovered who Nancy really is, and she has stepped out and she is shining so bright. And I can't be more proud for her, because proud of her, because Nancy, this is very courageous. She just was tired, fed up, and she knew that I say a train wreck was coming, because her health was at risk. But during the personality session, I was witness to it, which was pretty incredible. And fortunately, I recorded it. And it took her some time to process. So I'm going to turn it over and let her describe. But let's start, Nancy, where you were before my workshop, what attracted you to coming into the workshop, and then what led you to knowing that this was going to be the right next step for you. So I'd love to hear a little bit of that backstory, and then we can kind of like fast forward to where you are now, because she is full-fledged coaching and doing what she is good at, but not for the hospital anymore. So I think that's so cool. All right, so go ahead.
Well, hello again. Where I was at, well, I'm a psych nurse working in the hospital, and with COVID and everything, the environment was unhealthy. It was not only because of the COVID, but what they ask us as human beings in healthcare. It was too much. It was unbearable. And at first, I thought, because I'm 59 years old, I thought maybe it was because I was older than the others. But there was already like 8 other girls that quit the department, and they were 20 years younger than I am, because it was way too much. And I was continuing because I didn't want to let my co-workers alone, because there's not a lot of replacement. People, the health system is sick and is going down here in Canada. At least I don't know yours, but here
So, and
it's really bad.
I want to interject because one of the things that came up in your typing session is that you had a very inflexible environment and it was very regimented, and you are not meant to be that. Your innate personality is not meant to be that. And I remember
Exactly.
I remember you telling me that you could only have 15 minutes for patients.
Well, and I had some patient that diagnosed with COVID, but they had to stay 14 days in a closed room without going out. And the only person they would see was the nurse once during the hour shift. And it was when we were going to take the vital signs. So I would take a little time with them since they couldn't see and talk to nobody. And we're talking about mental health here. People with psychosis, with nervous breakdown, with depression, with all kinds of stuff, and not being able to get out of the room, not be able to go take a shower. They had to use a bowl of water and wash themselves in the room, and they had toilets in the room and they couldn't get out, and they couldn't have visitors and no one. So I would take like 15 minutes and I would take the vital signs and talk with them and everything with
Well, I
all
can
my
imagine,
equipment.
I can imagine because it also came up that you have a big heart for people and that you're a true nurturer. So I
Yeah,
imagine it was breaking your heart to like see
it
this
was
happening.
because for me, being a psych nurse, instead of being in surgery or stuff like that, is because before COVID, I was able to spend half an hour with the patients, and sometimes more when they needed it, because a lot of the work is especially the human kind of work. When you talk to them, you see them, they know they're heard and they're understood, and that helps a lot. And all kinds of mental care, it's really important to do that. And I wasn't allowed to do it, and I was criticized for it, and that didn't make me happy anymore because I wasn't fulfilled. I was like, I don't want to be the kind of nurse who only pops up pills and go away. I need more than that to feel like I'm a good nurse. And I
Yeah, and what
wasn't
I think,
satisfied anymore. And I was getting, every day I was getting more tired and tired and tired and fed up with it. And I was getting irritable, and which is not me. I'm not like this usually.
well, yeah,
So
that if you're really living from what your soul wants, you'll never feel that way, right? You'll feel
right,
joyful. You'll feel joyful.
right,
So you're just getting
exactly.
further away from the person that Nancy's supposed to be. Yeah,
Yeah,
and what's so interesting about your story too is that I believe that you're doing the work that you are meant to do, but the environment in which you are being forced was not the environment in which Nancy thrived. So
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Because I love my patients and I love being a nurse, and I love it. I love it because I'm really caring. That's in my soul. I care about people. So, and I understand them, and I got so many people getting back from depression and getting back from all kind of hard place to be in their heads and in their hearts, and they would completely change, and after they'd be happy. And sometimes I'd meet some outside of the hospital, and they would thank and present me to their friends and family. And so I used to love what I was doing, but now the environment was too hard for me, and I went in a burnout. It was too much for me, and I was tired of it. But I couldn't quit the job, even though I knew, I felt inside I was already into burnout mode. I couldn't quit already because I wanted to stay there for my colleagues, and so I did the most I can. But one day I went into Facebook, and I saw an ad from you, Not Your Average Grandma. I like the title a lot, and I love seeing you dance. I really, that that made me laugh, and that felt good. And I was looking at you, and you weren't scared of being yourself. And I said, oh, I like that woman. Because in my kind of work, there's a lot of people that manipulate, and the workers and the patients, and everybody's trying to push their stuff on you. So you've got to read between the lines and get to know who's saying the truth or who is not. And I'm not trusting right on the spot, and especially on the internet. I'm not the kind of girl who buys stuff and does stuff or joins groups or stuff like that. I'm always really, I trust my intuition because it doesn't fail me. And when I saw Lori, I stayed and watched and start the video again, and I said, I like that. And I'm 59 and I'm a grandma. I'm a grandma and no kids home. And so that talked to me, and I felt like being around women that lived the same kind of stuff and were searching. And so I didn't know what to expect, but I wanted to check it out. And at this moment, that's for sure, I wasn't ready financially to invest in anything because I needed some proof. And well, thanks to you, you gave some free sessions, so I could experiment what you had to give. But I had seen some other free stuff given away from other people, and that, oh, excuse the word, that was bullshit. it was like the only thing you felt was they wanted your money and they didn't want to give back. And I'm not that kind of person. I mean, I give a lot. So I want people around me to be the same kind of people I am. And I was mesmerized by how much I gained on free stuff. I said, if she's able to give me that freely, I have to invest and find out. And I couldn't believe it. And I still have trouble putting my mind around everything I had, because I know the place where I was at. It wasn't depression, because being burnout is not the same thing. It's caused by a situation. And so if you take the situation away, your health gets back up. But
and I want to speak to, because you're a psych nurse, so you know about what happens inside our heads. But it's so funny how when it comes to ourselves, I was talking to somebody today, and she does hypnosis and she teaches mindset, but there's things that are keeping her stuck. And it's like, we cannot help ourselves sometimes. We need somebody somebody else. And so I think it's so great that you were open to that possibility. Yeah.
But I've been working on myself all my life because I come from a highly dysfunctional family. So I had like a few therapies myself to get some help before. And when I didn't feel good at sometimes in my life, I would go and get some help. And because I don't think it's
that's what attracted you to being a
exactly,
right?
Yeah. So and because it was the period of COVID, I couldn't go to a specialist, a psychotherapist, because everything is online now. So when I saw you, it clicked. I wanted to know more, and I went and I got it. But there was a few stuff that I was surprised, because being an achiever, you're so much into the moving mode and getting, and that you finish by disconnecting from yourself, from your soul. And you're not listening to your body and your needs, and you take care of everybody in a fantastic way, but you're not on your list, so you don't take care of yourself, which is one of the things I've always been teaching my patients, to put themselves first, So I had to do it. So that's why I decided to join the group and see what was going on. And by doing the course and all the little workshops you did, that I decided to go on sick leave and really invest in me and follow your workshops, and because I felt it was doing me so much good that I needed to take my time. At first, because our session were on Mondays, I went to see my boss and I made her rearrange all the schedule to have every Monday nights up until April free, so I would be able to take the course. And she did so, and so I started this way. But after a while, that wasn't enough. I really chose myself, and I decided to go on sick leave, and just to invest in me and my well-being, which is important. When you don't feel good, you got to take care of yourself. If you can do it on your own, fine. But it's always good to go get some help.
Yeah, and I
So
want to speak to a couple things that you said, just so people
yeah.
understand. So I have a course that I call it a program because it's more than a course. It's a course and coaching, and I also do a lot of workshops. So the workshops are kind of embedded in the thing. And our season, I call it the fall season of 2020. We did Monday night. So, but that's not like, for every season. So, and I that's what I do, is I want to know when people can do it. And so I remember you and I talked about, like, are you available? And then you went and cleared your schedule. And so that was amazing that you made that accommodation. And some people aren't available and they do the replays, which is fine. You could do that as well. But I want to speak specifically to where I saw kind of a big switch that happened. And so I have this one module in my course about, it's really about discovering who you are. We kind of do some personality testing. We go back, look at our past. So there's quite a few lessons. But one of the things that I've done is I've partnered with Alex Paulos, who has a company called Inner Shift, and he does personality typing sessions. And he has developed a personality typing technique, and he is able to read people. And it's pretty incredible what he does. I've had him on my podcast. I will put in the show notes what episode it was. And it's like an hour of him explaining kind of his technique. So I won't go into a lot of detail here, but so I take my students through that, and we do a special session with him. And so what happened with Nancy is, and he tells you whether he has different personality characteristics. There's like 5 different characteristics, and he talks about how some of them, it's kind of like a spectrum. So you're on one end, you're on one way, and on the other end, you're another way. And so it's like, where are you on the spectrum? And what he tells you is, if you're on one end, those are your strengths, and the other end is your weaknesses. And he tells you whether you're utilizing your strengths or you're utilizing your weaknesses. And what happens if you don't utilize your strengths and you just pull from your weaknesses, then your weaknesses are going to, over time, just wear you down and hurt you, and actually will cause health problems. And so it's really fascinating. I found him back in July from a podcast, and what he did, and I wanted to immediately do it. And then once I did it with him, I wanted my students to experience it. So what happened with Nancy is he told her, he does it in a really nice way, but Nancy, he said that she was living inauthentically, really. And then he told her who her real what her innate personality is, which you're born with. And so he told her what it was and what her strengths were, and how she wasn't utilizing all of her strengths, and she was pulling too much from her weaknesses. And Nancy was experiencing some health issues. And he actually said this on the call. I was like, when I was watching this, it was like so incredible just to know how talented and what he can do. So one of the things he said is, I know you're suffering from adrenal fatigue. He said, you have tightness in your back and your neck. And he said, if you don't do something soon, you're going to come up with chronic fatigue syndrome, or you're going to have internal issues from all the acid you're producing. He said, you're producing too much cortisol, you're in fight or flight, and so I mean, I recently went back and listened to that, Nancy, and it's 4 pages. I took notes of all the things he said, but he delivers it in a way where it's very, he doesn't make you feel bad. He makes you feel like, so many of my students have come back and said, how did he know that? How did he know who I really am? And the people that are often living in a little self-deception and what he calls is wearing a mask, it's like he's taken the mask off, and it's okay. It's okay, because we do that because we're pleasers, right? You're trying to please your boss, you're trying to please the company you work for, or your parents, or whoever it is. And you came from a dysfunctional family, so even though you knew something was off, maybe with them, you're still trying to adapt, right? And do what they think you should, and or live the label that they've put on you. And
Mhm.
so I remember after that session, I went into the Facebook group, our student Facebook group, and I said, "Oh, so what? Like feedback? How did everybody do? And what did you think?" And everybody was like, "Oh my God, like so great, so great!" And so, and Nancy didn't immediately respond, and then you came and responded, and you said, "It's going to take me a couple of days to process this." So I knew that it was jolting, and I knew that it was a form of like wake up or else kind of. And it takes time, like when you hear that. But because Nancy wanted to change her life and Nancy's an action taker, she immediately took action, and she followed up when she kind of like processed it. Alex offers one-on-one sessions. So sometimes my students go in and go ahead and do a one-on-one with him. And I'm going to ask you to share what happened after your one-on-one session with him. This is
Okay.
incredible. Yeah.
Okay, so I called him, and he was able, even if he has a lot of clients, he was able to recognize me because of my beautiful French accent. So I asked him for this session are like one hour, and it's done on phone. He makes you do some kind of visualization.
Yes. Yes. What is it in
And
French? Tell us what it is in French.
visualisation.
Oh, that sounds better.
Yeah. And when I say it in French, sounds good. And he walks you through a path, and he talks to you all the time, and you go into not into sleep mode, but you're really relaxed, and you stay open minded, and it's not hypnosis, but it's not far from that state of mind. And while we did that session, something came up about some stuff that happened in my youth, and some hardship I had to live, and he helped me through all that stuff. And so I thank him because I already felt better. And that was the end of the evening. After that, I was kind of, because when you work on yourself, you get tired, So I decided to drink a lot of water, and then I went to bed and I slept. And when I woke up the next morning, I had the feeling that my head on my pillow wasn't like it's usually, like a certain height on the pillow. And so I put my hand on my neck, and my father had the same thing. It's called bison hump. It's a big piece of skin that grows
Like a
on.
cyst, right? Like a
It
cyst.
looks like a cyst, but it's not a cyst. It's really all the nerves that accumulate because of the stress. And it was a bump about, say, a 2-inch thick, and it was about the size of a big softball. So I don't know how many inch, but it was really big in my back. And I had another one in my lower back. And my father had the same thing, which was bigger than mine even. And he had a surgery for that. And that bison hump came back, even after the surgery. So, but me, the next morning, I put my hand there, and I said, oh my God, I thought I was daydreaming. The big hump was not there anymore. It went away during the night. And the one in the lower back, that took, I'd say, maybe 2 or 3 days, and it was gone too. But the one in the neck, I couldn't believe it. Overnight, it felt like a miracle. It's not a miracle because I know the mind and body, how it reacts one to the other, but I really liberated something from myself, and during the night, overnight, that was incredible. That was incredible.
And this to me is just further proof of the work that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, and I want to speak to the fact that your dad had it. When you find out your innate personality, it's genetic. So it comes from your genes. So your biological parents likely had some of the same things that you had because it's like genetic. So and what was interesting, when I did a session with him, the initial one was a group one, and one of the people was living in self-deception. And so it was funny because I paid a little extra to stay longer with Alex. We could stay and do another half hour with him. And I was just curious because we could ask him any questions. And I asked him a question, and I said, so I have a cousin who was given up for adoption. And I remember she found my aunt when she was like 30 years old. And one of the things she said, I really remember this because it really resonated with me. She said, I never felt like they understood my jokes. I remember sitting at the dinner table and I would say something that I thought was funny and nobody would laugh. And she goes, and when I finally met you and sat down at the dinner table with you, it's like, you got me. You got who I was. And so I asked him about that. And he goes, oh yeah, this can happen with adopted people. And one of the girls in the session who was living in self-deception, she goes, oh, I'm adopted. And so I was like, I mean, I'm getting chills just talking about that. So the fact, it's so sad that your dad didn't get help for that, but I'm so, so grateful and happy that you did that session with Alex and that you released that, because like I said, like there was a health train wreck a coming. And, but once you started realizing and getting to the root of who you really are and starting to come out of come out of the closet, right? Of your inauthentic self, you like those things kind of like disappeared. It's like mind-boggling. Okay, so now you're feeling better. Oh, I also want to talk about your boyfriend because it's so great. I love it when people transform, because when they transform, everything around them like shines brighter, right? The world's a better place. Nancy's kind of like, surroundings are going to be more magical because Nancy is showing up as her magical self. So I just want to hear from you what you told me that your boyfriend now says. Live-in boyfriend, by the way. So he sees her a lot.
Yeah. Well, we've been together for 11 years, so he knows me inside out. And he really is my soulmate. Even the word boyfriend doesn't make him justice, because he's a wonderful, wonderful man. I'm really blessed to have him in my life. After a while, I was into the program. He said, I don't know what you're doing with these women, but continue doing it, because I felt like for the past 2 months that I had lost you and you weren't there anymore. And I had trouble to talk to you, and you always wanted to be alone to get your energy back, and you were always tired. But he says, now I found the woman I fell in love is back. And I'm real happy that you're you again. So that felt very good. And I talked to him about, because I started to, because I'm a brainy kind of girl, it's only when I sleep that I have answers to my question, because my brain is always trying to control and make sense out of everything. So I would wake up in the night and have answers and answers and answers, and have dreams that would give me my answers. And I was almost more awake at night than during daytime. But
would you wake up and like want to talk to him about it, or would you like write it down, or what did you do during
I had to get up and come into my office and write stuff down, and because I had too many answers and I didn't want to forget it, and I wanted to have proof that I didn't just dreaming like this, but they were answers to questions I had. And since because I became a nurse, I work with dysfunctional kids as a educator, but I don't know the word in English for that. But I did that for over 20 years, and I became a nurse at 53 years old, and I'm 59. So because I wanted to help people more, I thought that it would be easier for me to help people then, So changing completely careers at that age, I was sure that I was going to be a nurse till the end. But with everything that happened, I said, no, that's not it. I've got to find the right thing, and that I need some spark. I need to find my true mission and make money out of it. And I didn't know exactly how or what, but I was searching, well, when you approach 60 years old, you don't have that much time left. So you want to make a good use of the time you got. And for me, I want to help the most people I can, so they don't have to suffer what I had to suffer. So
yeah, I want to speak to so again, you kind of know what lights you up, so that wasn't a hard part. But a recent thing that you sent to me just made me so happy, because you said, I'm now, and I feel like it's a journey, right? Like what you did at 53 by becoming a nurse, it's all continued wisdom and knowledge that you're developing. And it's like you've been on this path, it's leading you here. And now you're taking everything that you've done over the past 6 years as a nurse, you're now able to use that to help people in just a different kind of model. And so, yeah. And I people think that they're struggling. They think that, the universe isn't helping them. But if they're going through any kind of a struggle, it's a lesson they need. It's a lesson they need.
It's a teaching. It's a teaching.
Yes.
Yeah, you're being taught something important, but when you're inside of it,
yes.
you've got to be out of the square to see what's in the square. So
yeah. So what Nancy has realized is, through her own personal journey, is that she doesn't ever want to see anybody live an inauthentic life. And yeah. She just opened a Facebook group. She's going to start coaching people, but using the tools that she's learned and all of her wisdom and knowledge from her years of working with patients. But I love the name of your Facebook group, because it's what she had to do to get where she is today.
Exactly.
And Alex said that you're in a mind prison. You're like a caged bird, and you need to be a free bird. And so her Facebook group is, it's
Free Your Spirit. I opened it in French, but eventually it's going to be in English too. But I'm going to practice on French people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exact same thing in French and in English. It's really a Free Your Spirit. So
and that's coming from this deep, deep desire and mission that nobody lives in a world that are wearing a mask. No, take off your mask, come into the group, and just share real quickly, and then we'll wrap up. But one thing you said to me was really struck a chord with me, because we were talking about Christmas, and you told me that you don't like Christmas, and you told me the reasons why.
And since I come from a dysfunctional family, for people who don't know what that means, it means that the people in your family don't feel like you belong with them, because like mine, they were superficial people who considered money and beauty as being everything. But me, the soul is more important than appearances. So they felt I wasn't belonging in the family. So everything that was going bad into their life, it was my fault, whatever it was. And they made me pay dearly for it. So I suffered a lot for many, many years before I could get rid of all that stuff. And I did therapies, and I did soul searching, and I did a lot of stuff that was painful. It was painful and hard, and I didn't have anybody to show me the steps and show me how to do it. And so I worked really hard, and I suffered a lot, and I don't wish that on anyone. So one of the things that was really hard for me, and that is hard for a lot of people, is when you get around Christmas or anytime during the year, you hear it, is that family is the most important thing in life. It is true for, I'd say, at least 95%, but the other 5%, they feel like shit, because for them, it's not the most important thing in the world, the family. It's the one thing that you think you're supposed to have love and security. It feels like they want you dead, and they don't want you to succeed. So hearing that, and you cannot explain it, because, people think that if you say that and there's 5 other members in the family and they say the opposite, well, they must be right and you are wrong. So you can never explain that to anyone, and because you feel judged and you feel like you're the problem, and you never get anyone to pull you out of that feeling. But I had the chance to meet a lot of people and this and that. But in the program, one thing that really moved me was we had to search what we had done for as long as we remember, by sequences of 10 years. So I started writing that. And my family always said that you'll never be able to do nothing. You're worth absolutely zero. You're worthless. You're this, you're that. And with that exercise you made us do, I realized that I accomplished so many things that not a lot of people on earth are able to do. So my self-esteem, it gave me a boost of self-esteem, not being... not bad pride, but really nourishing my self-esteem was really great. So I thought, well, maybe I'll find a way to get paid for it, but I want to help people. I want to be a life coach, and I want to pick people that come from dysfunctional families, because I get them. I get them even better than they get themselves. And I have the tools because I tried so many things. So that's my purpose now. So that gives me energy. I wake up in the morning and I'm excited, and I didn't know what being excited was, because I wasn't allowed to live that as a child. They would always like, an egg, you cook an egg. When you put a hole in the yellow, in the yolk, you cannot stitch it back. It's over. So now I've got that. And I got a great life. And my boyfriend, he makes joke and he makes me laugh, but the laugh was from the head. Now it comes from me. It doesn't have to come from him. My happiness comes from me. I wake up happy in the morning. So I wish everybody to live that. That's a great experience. So I will always be grateful to you, Lori, because that's magical. That's magical. That's the greatest gift.
Yeah. So, well, and I always say, you did the work, you showed up, and you took the action, a lot of brave action. So, but you're just proof. You're just proof of the possibilities. You're proof, that we all do have a purpose inside of us, and we just need to open up that get in there and
doing the affirmations and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Listen, I was so ready to change. I'm telling you, it takes me a long time every morning to do everything I got to do, but I do it to the letter.
Yeah.
It's all the time. I do it all the time, and I've got some more that I put in, and I want to grow. I'm into it, and I want to help people, and so that's great. That
Yeah, I just did new ones today. I just did new ones today. We always got to be refreshing them. Okay, so any last bit of advice you'd like to give anybody?
Well, I think the most important thing you get to learn in life is to love yourself. And it's the last thing they teach you at school or in life or anybody. But go get some help if you don't know how to do it. That's what I did. And I'm so appreciative. And I think it's a lifelong process. So I'm not going to quit. I'm going to do it all the time, and I'm going to grow again. And even if I'm 6 foot tall, I'm going to grow again. but it's worth it, and you're worth it. And take care of yourself and your soul and your life and your authentic self. Yeah. Learn what it really means and go get it.
Yes. Amen. All right. So I will put in the show notes a link to your Facebook group. So anybody who would like to reach out to Nancy and would like to be a part of her free Facebook group, then and maybe speaks a little French, but she is going to be doing English as well. So yeah.
Well, if talking about dysfunctional families hits a chord with you, you can come and ask, and I could do some one-on-one sessions with you. I would do an evaluation which is free, but the one-on-one session, I could do it in English with you, and I would be really happy to help you. Now I'm opening it. It's sure that the Facebook group, everything is written in French, but if I see people that come and need my English part, I'll write everything in both languages to help you, and I'll be ready to help you.
Yeah, and I think Facebook has a little thing where you can get the translate really easy. So it's kind of
cool. Maybe. Yeah. I didn't try that. I'm not a tech pro yet. I've got to work hard on that.
Well. You're managing very well. All right. Well, thank you so much. And you are amazing. And, you and I are still working together. So, all right.
Okay, fine. Bye. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Not Your Average Lives podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on iTunes if you have an Apple device. You can find free resources and learn what else I have going on at the moment that might interest you on my website at notyouraverage.grandma.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you liked this episode, it would make my heart so happy if you could leave me a 5-star rating. You can also add a review to let me know what you like about this podcast, which will help spread the word about it to others who need a little midlife inspiration. As always, be you, listen to your inner voice, and focus on reigniting that lost spark so you can start living your own, not your average life.